Is the new Bruichladdich 18 worth the high price tag? I'm Jeff, this is G Whiskey, stick around. Okay, Bruichladdich 18 today. This is one that I've been looking forward to trying since it was announced. This one was released at around the same time as the Port Charlotte 18, which was, I don't know, like late 2023, early 2024. And ever since that, I've been looking forward to trying both of them. Unfortunately, for the first 6 months or so, I couldn't find either of them here in Taiwan. And then a few months back, of all places, Costco stepped up and they started selling this one. Now, I hear in the States, Costco is a great place for whiskey. You get a lot of selection, great prices. Here, the prices are fine, but the selection is very limited. So I was surprised to find this one. So obviously, I had to buy this one the moment it got released. As for the Port Charlotte, I asked them and they said they didn't have it in. And unfortunately, to this day, it's nowhere to be found in Taiwan. So I'm assuming we're just not going to get it. And that's really sad because Port Charlotte 18 genuinely excites me. So much so that I almost want to resort to asking you guys, if there's anyone out there who wants to send me a bottle. But, I'm not going to do that. That's tacky. Get out of here. So for today, the Bruichladdich 18 will have to do, and to be honest, I'm equally excited about this one. I know that between the two, the peated line, the Port Charlotte line gets a little bit more love than the Bruichladdich, but personally, I love them both. The 18 here has been matured mostly in bourbon casks, but we also have some Sauternes casks and some port casks in the mix, which is an interesting combo. For barley, we've got mainland barley, Islay barley, and organic barley. The Islay barley is the first batch or crop of barley that they grew themselves, so that's kind of interesting. Our bottle here is called ReDefine, which I don't know what that means, but it sounds very cool, very edgy. Now, what's interesting about this one is that this was distilled back in 2004, so it's from a different era of Bruichladdich. And if you were drinking Bruichladdich about, 10 or so years ago, you know that the brand was in a completely different place back then, a much funkier place. Modern Bruichladdich is in a much different place. I would argue that it's gone a little bit more mass appealing, but I still absolutely love this stuff. I love the classic laddie, the 8-year-old, the discontinued 16-year-old. I love the bare barley releases. It's just a great brand. So I'm very curious about this one. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Nice 50% ABV with this one. As always with Bruichladdich, this is fully craft, so it's non-chill filtered and it's natural color. So I really like the new look for Bruichladdich. I think it's a little bit more stylish and modern than the previous look. I like the little jacket, I guess you could call it, that it comes in, which is like recycled paper and cardboard. The glass itself uses less glass than the previous bottle, so we're going eco-friendly, which is great. Beyond that, we have a glass cork, so we know it's fancy. In terms of like the font and the color scheme, they are in keeping with the old branding, but I just like the newer look more, so I'll give it 5 out of 5. This does say that it's unchill filtered and coloring free. We get some tasting notes and a little blurb on the side of the bottle. It says it's ultra high provenance. It also talks about terroir and the human soul that gives the whiskey life. It's definitely a little bit markety.
Age is more than just a number. It's a place, a people, a philosophy, a passage of time.
Okay, sure thing, fella. Now, to be fair to them, they are focused on things like provenance and sustainability, so they do actually back it up. Beyond that, the bottle looks great, it looks premium, all the info we need is there, so well done. On the nose, this is very bright, very crisp, very fruity. I get a lot of sweet pears in here. There's Mirabelle plums, there's peaches, there's apricots, there's those honey lemon cough lozenges. I get barley, I get vanilla, I get brown sugar. There's cream, there's nutmeg, there's oak. I also get a little hint of that old school Bruichladdich funk that's in here. Overall, the nose is fruity, sweet, and sour. On the palate and finish, this has a beautiful texture. The arrival is on sweet barley, brown sugar, cereals, and fruits. I get maple flavored oatmeal. There's lemon meringue pie. There's loads of fruit in here. I had to write them down. We have pears, yellow plums, peaches, star fruit, gooseberries, green grapes, pineapple, and tangerine. We do get that Sauternes sweet wine touch. There's vanilla, there's plenty of oak, there's white pepper, and again, that classic old school Bruichladdich funk. Medium finish. So does this re/define 18-year-olds? I don't know about that, but it is an interesting throwback to a different era of Bruichladdich. As some of you may know, the brand reopened in 2001, and those first few years, those early years, gave us very different whiskey than what we get today. And it definitely wasn't for everyone. As I said, the more modern versions of Bruichladdich have gone more in a mainstream direction, and those early years gave us much more sort of like lactic, funky, cheesy type notes. You don't find them as much today, but they are in here. However, don't worry if you're not a fan of those notes because they're not nearly as pronounced as they used to be. So if you compare something like this to the first release of the Laddie 10 that came out ages ago, more than a decade, I'm guessing, that was much more forward. It was much more funky and dirty than what we're getting here. I think after 18 years in the casks, this has calmed those notes down and they are a little bit more rounded. So it's not going to be off-putting. Personally, I do like those notes. I like them in the first Laddie release, and I like them in this, even though they are calmer. This whiskey is good. It's got a lot going on. It's got a lot of complexity. There's a lot of interplay between different flavors in this. And it does bounce a lot between sweet, sour, and even a little bit bitter, which does make it an atypical whiskey, and it does get criticized online for not being the most balanced whiskey out there, and I get it. Because even though I do like this whiskey and I am going to say nice things about it, its strength isn't being the most balanced whiskey. It isn't. The flavors here are good, but are they totally harmonious? I don't know, that's debatable. I will admit there is a bit of a wonky balance to this whiskey, but because I like the flavors and I like the characters so much, I'm personally willing to look past it, but you might not. So if you factor in that wonky balance, the fact that this gives us kind of a lactic funk, and the price, which we will get to in a second, I can see why the internet is divided on this one. It's just one of those bottles that when you have it, you're either going to like it or you don't, and if you're like me and you do like it, you're still going to understand why others don't. Because there are a lot of bottles out there that I love, and I think also everyone in the world should also love them because I'm objectively right and they're amazing bottles. So if we're talking about something like, I don't know, Craigellachie 13, if you told me you think that's a garbage whiskey, I would tell you that you're swine. I would then proceed to insult you, potentially spit on you, and if I were wearing a leather glove, I would slowly take it off while maintaining intense eye contact and slap you with it. But if it's something like this and you tell me you don't like it, I'll be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It is a weird whiskey. It's not going to work for a lot of people. And listen, I know this review sounds very confused, because it is. I am spending a lot of time telling you what doesn't work, but at the end of the day, I still love it, and I think there's a lot of great things happening here. I love the fact that this is a well-matured, complex, and interesting bottle from a different era of Bruichladdich. But because I'm such a huge fan of Bruichladdich, I like the stuff from today, I like the stuff from back in the day. I like it all, and because I'm such a fanboy for the brand, and because this whiskey is weird in a way that happens to work for me, I'm still gonna go pretty high on the score here. I'm giving this 90. So delicious, but divisive. If you're thinking about getting this, you should definitely already be a fan of Bruichladdich. You should come into it with an open mind, and you might have to spend some time with it before you can really warm up to it. And even then, you still might not love it. This whiskey does not make it easy, and it is a risk, so it's a tough one to recommend, but I do think it's excellent. And of course, no conversation about this is complete before we touch on value, which we will do in a moment. Before that, though, I do want to say a quick thank you to all my patrons, all my channel members. Guys, thank you so much for all the support. And if you want to help out, if you want to help keep the channel financially sustainable and independent, there are a number of ways that you can help. I have both Patreon and PayPal linked down below. Anything and everything helps. And again, a massive thank you if you're already helping out with the channel. Now, on to the big question. Is this worth all of that cheddar? Cheddar. So value on this one is pretty tough. I'm okay with it, but that's because my market is very cheap. I paid 125 US, just shy of 100 pounds for this, and that's going to be substantially cheaper than most other markets. So for what I paid for it, I think it's a banger. I bought a backup bottle, but I realize that most markets are substantially more expensive. Typically on the lower end, you're going to be paying at least 160-ish US, 130-ish pounds. And for that, just because of the kind of profile that it is, it's kind of a difficult whiskey to wrap your head around. I would suggest trying before you buy. So try it at a bar or something, get a sample from a friend. It's not blind buy worthy. All right, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, I want to hear from you. Again, very divisive whiskey, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Are you a fan of this? What do you think? Is it worth the money? Do you like the profile? Let me know all of that down below. Also down below, you can let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I will keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.